Hi everyone, so a slightly different video for us this week. I thought it'd be quite nice to explore the practice of Yoga Nidra. It was inspired by one of you who actually contacted me this week asking for some resources around that, and I thought that is such a perfect idea and such a perfect practice to be sharing with people at a time like this. Yoga Nidra is something I do myself practice quite regularly. I've also shared it with others in workshops and classes in the past. And I think it really will be of benefit to you all. So I'll explain a bit more about Yoga Nidra in a second, but I'll just explain how this video is kind of going to work. So it's going to be in two separate parts. The first part is going to be kind of preparation for Yoga Nidra, so it's going to be a little bit more of a physical asana practice to help kind of set the stage and put us in the right conditions to practice Yoga Nidra. And then the second part of the video will be the Yoga Nidra practice, and there'll probably be around half an hour for the physical practice, half an hour, 40 minutes for the Yoga Nidra practice. They can both be used as standalone practices as well. So you can do the first part if you just want to do a really sort of gentle asana practice, and you can do the Yoga Nidra without having to do the preparation. It's not a prerequisite for Yoga Nidra, it's just something nice to get us sort of prepared for that. But if you've got the time and the space, I really do recommend to do the preparation and the Yoga Nidra. It's a really nice thing to do. So for those of you who haven't practiced Yoga Nidra before, in its simplest terms, it's yogic sleep, which sounds mint, which is why I practice it quite a lot. So what that means is it puts us, Yoga Nidra puts us in a state of really sort of deep relaxation, but that relaxation is also a receptive relaxation as well. So it's that phase between sleep and waking, that sort of conscious state between sleep and waking, where you're very aware of sounds and things that are happening around you, even though you are technically asleep. And that can be used for a variety of things. So Yoga Nidra is really good for deep relaxation. It's great for that. It's also really useful to help us discover and change any negative conditioning that might be in the subconscious. It all sounds really woo when I'm talking about it like this, but it's not like that at all. It's a really peaceful practice. And when we're practicing Yoga Nidra, we call upon a sankalpa, which is basically a resolve or an intention that we set, we create, and we use within the practice. But I'll talk a bit more about that when we come to the Yoga Nidra part of the practice. I'm going to go to my living room in a second, so you'll see this all change a bit, and we'll do the first part of the practice, which is around physical preparation for Yoga Nidra. So I'll see you shortly on the mat. So we're at the asana section of our practice. Like I said before, this section can be used as a standalone practice. It's about half an hour of really sort of gentle movement, or it can be used as preparation for Yoga Nidra, which we're going to look at later on in the video. Also, I want to share the next section of the Yoga Sutras at this stage with you as well. I was looking over it just before I started the video, and it's really apt actually. There's a couple of verses in there that are relevant to the practice of Yoga Nidra, which I wasn't aware of until I started the video actually, so I think that's really wonderful. We're going to start from standing, so I'll get us set up here and then I'll read the verses to us. So coming onto your mat or your floor, wherever you're working, and let's bring the feet slightly wider than the hips and let the knees soften, and really becoming aware of the sensations of the soles of the feet against the floor. I want to roll the soles back and forth, side to side, getting a sense of the ground beneath. Letting the knees soften, letting the pelvis and the hips rest, so we're not pushing the pelvis and the hips forwards. It's almost like you're going to sit down, yeah, that's the sensation in the pelvis. You can rest down, and letting the arms and the hands drape at the sides of the body. And letting the breath move in and out on its own accord, find its own rhythm and pace. And if it's appropriate for you, if you'd like to, letting the eyes soften and close here. And we're going to spend simply a few moments here standing to arrive at our practice today. So while we're here, I'm going to share the next few verses of the Yoga Sutras. So we're up to verse 33 now. The mind becomes clear and serene when the qualities of the heart are cultivated. Friendliness toward the joyful, compassion toward the suffering, happiness toward the pure, and impartiality toward the impure, or through the practice of various breathing exercises. Experience of the finer levels of the senses establishes the settled mind. So does experience of the inner radiance that is free from sorrow. So does being attuned to another mind that is itself unperturbed by desire. So does witnessing the process of dreaming or dreamless sleep. So does any meditation that is held in high esteem. The sovereignty of the mind that is settled extends from the smallest of the small to the greatest of the great. I'll read that again for you. The mind becomes clear and serene when the qualities of the heart are cultivated. Friendliness toward the joyful, compassion toward the suffering, happiness toward the pure, and impartiality toward the impure, or through the practice of various breathing exercises. Experience of the finer levels of the senses establishes the settled mind. So does experience of the inner radiance that is free from sorrow. So does being attuned to another mind that is itself unperturbed by desire. So does witnessing the process of dreaming or dreamless sleep. So does any meditation that is held in high esteem. The sovereignty of the mind that is settled extends from the smallest of the small to the greatest of the great. So eventually letting the eyes open from there if you have them closed. I'm just going to do a little bit of work to open the chest and open up to the breath here, especially in the tops of the lungs and down to the base of the lungs as well. So we'll start with a practice that we're all really familiar with now. So we're going to let the arm sway across the front of the body. And you can keep it at this, so if you would like to, as the arm sways back, you can add in that little pat on the back movement. So we're speaking into the sides of the ribs and a bit more into the lungs with this movement now. And also this tapping is quite stimulating for the breath and lungs as well. We're going to do a little bit more tapping as well in a moment. And eventually letting that movement fizzle out and come back to a still place and feeling the difference between the two sides of the body. And then let's come with the opposite arm, so let's sway across the front of the body. You might want to let some exhalations come out through the mouth. Make some sounds. And as the arm sways back, giving yourself a pat on the back. And then eventually on this second side, letting that movement fizzle out and coming back to a still place. Keeping the feet slightly wider than the hips. We're just going to do a little bit of tapping of the lungs here. I've found this quite useful lately as well. It's normally something I do around autumn, but I found because I'm indoors a lot more than I normally am, at the moment, it's kind of just good to get that stimulation in the lungs, that kind of fresh air would do. So you're going to make a fist with one hand, let it be quite a gentle fist, and the wrist is soft. And then we're simply going to tap around one side of the chest, and you can even come to the sides of the ribs and the lungs. You might even be able to reach around to the back. You might want to use the other hand to do that, whatever you can do to get there. Ooh. And then eventually letting go on that side, and just notice the difference. So for me, it just feels like that whole side's a bit buzzier, it's got more space there, it's a bit more stimulated. I feel if I could take if I take an inhalation, it will be even deeper on that side. I've got the space and the capacity there. So let's go with the opposite side. So again, gentle fist, loose wrist, and again, come in to tap the chest, sides of the ribs. You can get round to the back. You want to use the same hand. It's up to you. You may want to let some sounds out. And then again, you can kind of just use both sides now, tapping as and where. I feel like King Kong. I just caught a glimpse of myself in the monitor thing. And then letting go of that. And again, sensing what you've got there. It could even be that, you know, you've got the need to kind of bring the arms up over the head, bring the arms wide, whatever the arms and the chest, the shoulder girdle want to do. So that was all we're going to do from standing. We're going to come down now onto the mat. So we're going to do a little bit of a sequence. Again, we've done some of this in class, but I'm going to do probably a few more parts of this sequence for the practice today. So this is what I do personally when I'm preparing for Yoga Nidra. So I'll do a little bit of work to open out the lungs, and then I like to come into this kind of twisting sequence that speaks to all the different parts of my spine. It just really helps me to be comfortable in my Yoga Nidra. So I'm going to come onto my side. I've got a little bit of support here for my head. My feet, my shins are at a right angle to my thighs, and I like to use the front of my mat to help me gauge that. And then I've got one arm on top of the other. We might have even done some of this a few videos past. I feel like that was a lifetime ago now. So we're going to do, there's a few movements in this sequence, so I think we're going to do about maybe 5 of them for this preparation today. So the first movement is I'm going to let this top arm begin to slide back and forth, and I'm going to resist the temptation to bend the elbow, so the arm is going to stay straight, and as it slides back and it slides forward, it's going about a hand's length. Yeah, so I'm just kind of sliding over back and forth on this lower hand, speaking to that space between the shoulder blades. And let the head and neck move as they need to as well. So you might find the head rolls a bit more towards the forehead and then a bit more back. And then we're going to continue this movement. So as we slide forwards, about a hand's length, and then we slide back, I'm going to keep sliding the arm back, and then there will come a point that my elbow has to bend. I'm going to trace it across my chest, And then I'm going to let my elbow come down towards the floor on the opposite side, and I'm going to let that arm open out to the opposite side. And I've turned my head and my gaze to look towards that opposite arm. I don't know if you can see, I let this top leg lift slightly as well. So you let that top leg lift as much as you need to. You don't have to keep the knees together. And then I'm going to come back the way I came. I'm going to repeat that movement a few times. The next phase of this movement, and you can spend longer on any of these phases than I am, it's entirely up to you, but I'm just going to move through them at a fairly quick pace to show you. So the next movement I'm going to make is I slide the hand forwards, and then I trace this semicircle up and over my head, and as I do that I begin to let the elbow bend. I let the head and the neck turn. Again, I let this top knee lift slightly. So the arms are draped over the top of the head. And then I come back the way I came. Again, repeating that movement a few times. This is my favourite out of all of them. Again, it might be nice to let some exhalations come out through the mouth. What you can do, if it's comfortable in the shoulder, you can let the arm come all the way around and back. I do a few of these sort of full rotations. It can be quite nice at some stages to pause in one of the open phases for a few breaths and then come back. Okay, so the next movement I'm going to make, I'm going to lift this top arm up and slightly back behind me. Not a huge amount. Yeah, I want to keep this connection into my shoulder still. So I'm reaching slightly back, up and slightly back, and my head and gaze stays forwards. And then I draw that arm back down. Going back up. And down. Almost imagining that top arm was moving through water, or even like honey, or something that makes the movement feel quite luxurious. And then we can add on to this movement now. So this time I'm going to let the head and the gaze follow the arm, and I'm going to come all the way over to the opposite side and back. And again, you might want to pause in the open phase of the movement, have a few breaths there. And eventually letting go of that. Again, you can spend a bit longer if you want to in any of these movements. So the next movement I'm going to make, I'm going to bring it a bit lower down my back now. I'm going to use the legs to help me do this. So I'm going to interlock the fingers. I'm going to draw the arms out long in front of me. So I'm going to think about that first movement I made where the arm was sliding back and forth. I'm going to make a very similar movement now in the top leg. So I let this thigh slide forwards and slide back and slide forwards and slide back. And if any of these movements don't agree with the back for any reason, you can always modify them or leave them out. Yeah, always doing what feels good and right for your body. So the next movement is again staying in this lower part of the body now, staying with the legs. I'm still interlocking the fingers, I'm still reaching them out in front of me. And then this top leg I'm going to lift up and back, and this lower leg wants to come and join it, but these arms are not going to let that happen. So these are forming a bit of a counterweight here to stop me from going all the way over onto my back. And then I come back to where I was. And again, repeating that a few times. And then letting go of that on that side. So we're going to do all that again on the second side, but before we do, I like to get rid of the support from under my head, and I like to come onto my back, let the legs lengthen out long, and simply feel the impact of that. So you might have one side of the body that feels incredibly different now to the other side. So let's take it now to the other side. So you can simply just flip over on your head support. So I'm going to bring mine to the opposite end of my mat. So again, coming onto side of your body, bringing the shins so they're at right angles with the thighs, bringing some support for underneath the head. Okay, so we're going to make that first movement again, which is where we let the top arm slide along the lower arm, about a hand's length. So it's like we're moving from that space between the shoulder blades. Incredibly soothing, these sorts of movements as well, these kind of rocking back and forth movements. So really good to help us drop into the parasympathetic branch of our nervous system, which is responsible for rest and relaxation. Okay, so let's take it to the second phase where we trace now the arm right along that lower arm, let the other bend, tracing across the chest and opening out to the opposite side, letting the head and neck turn to look at the arm if it's comfortable. And then coming back and remembering letting that leg lift as much as you need to accommodate that movement. At any point you can pause in the open phase of the movement, spending a few breaths there. And then let's take it into the next movement, which was creating that arc over the top of the head. So see, I let my elbow begin to bend and then coming across to the opposite side. This is also a good sequence, not just for yoga nidra, but for other forms of meditation as well. This is a really good preparation sequence. You might want to make some full rotations with the arm, only if it's comfortable in the shoulder. Okay, and even pausing in the open phase if you want to at any point. I'm going to move on to the next movement. So if you remember, the next movement is we keep the head and the gaze looking forwards, and we lift this top arm up and slightly back, slightly back. And it's like you're keeping a vibrancy in the whole arm. Yeah, you can kind of just make this movement, but there's a difference between that and having a whole vibrancy right through to the fingertips and back. I think that is sort of working as if you're working through water can really help embody that sense in the movement. So it's like you're finding that connection right from the depths of the shoulder joint through to the tips of the fingers. And then let's continue that movement where we add in the gaze and the turn of the head now, and we go all the way to the opposite side. Really letting the weight of the head here as well come into play. So imagine we've got sort of sand in the back of our skull. Okay, so we're going to eventually let go of that movement. We're going to bring it a little lower down into the body now. So we're thinking about the thighs and the lower back here. So interlocking the fingers, it might help to change the interlock of the fingers, so maybe moving them all on down so it feels a bit strange. And then coming to slide that top thigh back and forth. So it's like you're feeding the head of the femur into the hip joint and then feeding it away. And then if you want to begin to take this further, we can make the movement where we lift this top leg away We begin to reach it back. This bottom leg begins to follow, but we don't want to go all the way over, so we're going to counter that weight, counter the balance with our arms, and then we're going to come back. If there's any vulnerability in the lower back for any reason, this might not be comfortable. So, you know, approach as with all the movements we make, approach with caution. And it could be that you simply just move the leg up a little and then back down. Yeah, you don't have to go as far as I am here. And then again, eventually letting go. On this second side, just moving your head support away and coming to lay on the back. And feel what you've got there. So it could be after the work we've just done that the back of the body can rest against the floor a bit easier, which is particularly something we particularly want when we're practicing Yoga Nidra. Or if you're practicing Yoga Nidra sat in a chair, again, you want the back of the body to be able to rest into that support. So that little sequence I find really helps that. So we're going to move on to the Yoga Nidra part of the video now. So there'll probably be a little jump, and then you'll see me again back in the other room. So you're going to need all the things that you're going to need for your Yoga Nidra. So blankets, anything you're going to need to make yourself warm. So gather those things together, and I will see you shortly. So hopefully you enjoyed the asana part of the practice. So we're going to move into the Yoga Nidra part of our practice now. And before we do that, I just wanted to discuss a little bit more about this Sankalpa aspect of a Yoga Nidra practice. So a Sankalpa is basically a resolve, intention, or I suppose you could describe it as like a heartfelt prayer that we say to ourselves during the practice of Yoga Nidra. And if you remember, I was saying that Yoga Nidra puts us in a sort of really deep state of relaxation where our subconscious is very receptive. So the idea is our resolve can speak to our subconscious directly and hopefully begin to embody that change in our way of thinking. So an example of that might be last week I was really anxious. So my Sankalpa last week was, I am calm. Kept it nice and simple, short statement, which is also said in the present tense, so as if we are already embodying that. Yeah, so other examples might be, I am well, I am happy, yeah, I am calm, like I was using. So maybe just kind of start to have a think about what you might need, and don't worry if nothing comes to mind as well. You know, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't mean that we can't practice Yoga Nidra still. But you know, even if nothing comes to mind, maybe that could be your Sankalpa. So for example, you know, I think about myself, or I consider myself. That would be a good one. So yeah, lots of scope there for Sankalpas. And you're going to get yourself set up in as comfortable as a position that you can be, and it doesn't always have to be lying down for Yoga Nidra. It's definitely the preferred choice for many people. So if that is, get yourself set up like that, nice and warm, plenty of blankets, something underneath you. You know, make sure you're as comfortable as you can be. It could be lying on your front over a bolster that we've looked at in some other videos. It could also be sat in a comfortable chair. Yeah, it could also be done standard. This is something I've kind of explored over the last few years. I wouldn't recommend that if this is your first time practicing Yoga Nidra, but maybe it's something to bear in mind if you continue to explore this practice. So we're going to begin shortly, so get yourself set up as comfortable as you possibly can be in whatever shape that manifests itself as, and make sure you're going to be more warm enough. They're probably the two main things here. And then once you're set up, we shall begin our Yoga Nidra practice. So making yourself as comfortable as you possibly can be here. Making any adjustments that you might need to make to allow your body to rest deeply into the support that's offered you. And giving yourself wholeheartedly to the practice of Yoga Nidra. And there's no need to worry if you don't hear everything I say. It's natural to flow in and out of conscious hearing, so even if you fall asleep, the deepest part of you will always be listening. And whatever your experience today, you will benefit from the practice. Come into a still place and inviting yourself to be deeply relaxed and nourished. Bringing your awareness to your breath, allowing your body to become heavy and supported by the earth below. And as you lie here, bring an intention to mind. Make it a short positive statement in the present tense, such as I am confident or I am well. Repeat this intention to yourself 3 times as though it is already happening. Allowing your awareness to travel through your body, noticing any sensations in the body, and feeling each part as I mention it, without having to move, allowing yourself to remain still. And welcome all sensations just as it is, without judgment. So becoming aware of the mouth, feeling any sensations around or within the mouth, being aware of the jaw, lips, upper lip and lower lip, noticing where the lips touch, and sensing the inside of the mouth, the roof of the mouth, under the tongue, upper teeth, lower teeth, the tongue, the root of the tongue, the centre and the tip of the tongue. Becoming aware of the left inner cheek, the right inner cheek, and then sensing all those areas of the mouth within and around the mouth as a whole. Becoming aware of your nose, noticing the nostrils, left nostril, right nostril, both nostrils together. Becoming aware of the breath moving through the nostrils, all the way to the back of the head. Becoming aware of your ears, the right ear, the left ear, both ears together. Feeling the wrinkles and folds of the ears, backs of the ears, ear lobes, ear canals. Notice your ears receiving sound and listening. Becoming aware of your eyes, the left eye, the right eye, both eyes together. Sensing the eyelids, feeling the eyelashes, and noticing where the eyelids touch, being aware of the surfaces of the eyes, centres of the eyes and the backs of the eyes. And bringing awareness to the crown of the head, the forehead and the face, feeling the whole head, feeling the neck, the back of the neck, the sides of the neck and the throat. And bringing your awareness down into the right palm. Sensing the palm of the right hand. Noticing the thumb, the first finger, second finger, third finger, and the little finger. And feeling the whole hand alive, pulsing with energy. Feeling the wrist, the forearm, the elbow, upper arm, and the whole of the shoulder. And then moving across to the left hand, noticing the palm of the left hand. Feeling the thumb on the left hand, the first finger, second finger, third finger, and the little finger. Feeling the whole hand alive, filled with sensation. Feeling the left wrist, forearm, elbow, the upper arm, and the whole of the shoulder. Feeling the notch at the base of the throat. And allowing that to bring your awareness now into the upper chest and the upper back, the shoulder blades, and the heart center. Sensing down now into the abdomen, the back of the ribs, the solar plexus area. Feeling the belly button, the pelvis and the hips. Feeling to the right hip, the thigh on the right side, the knee, the lower leg, the calf, ankle, the foot, toes, and the sole of the foot. Feeling the foot as a whole. And then travelling back to the pelvic area. And then sensing into the left hip, the left thigh, the knee, the lower leg, ankle, the foot, toes, sole of the foot. And then noticing both of the feet together. And then feeling your roots between the sitting bones. And travelling up towards the belly button, the navel centre. Coming back up to the solar plexus area. Back up towards the chest into the heart centre. Up into the throat centre. Sensing the mouth again. The space between the brows. And up to the crown of the head. And feeling the back of the body resting against whatever support you're against. Bringing your awareness to the whole of the back of the body. And then feeling the front of the body. Feel the whole of the left side, the midline, the right side, and sensing into the body as a whole. and feeling the sensations you might be sensing throughout the whole of the body, from the crown of the head right down to the soles of the feet. So sensing into your breath, your natural breath as it flows through you at your own rhythm, at your own pace. Feeling the breath in and becoming aware of the breath out. And as you exhale, imagine a wave passing downward through the body, carrying away any tensions. And then as you bring the breath back in, as you inhale, it's like a fresh wave can flow upward through the whole body, bringing a sense of calm, stability. And then exhaling carries away any anxieties or fears. And then again, inhaling that sense of serenity, tranquility, and calm. And just being with the breath here for a few cycles, letting the breath come in and out at its own pace. And again, as we inhale, imagine that wave moving through us, bringing that sense of, that fresh sense of serenity and tranquility. And as we exhale, letting go of any tensions or anxieties. So opening yourself to your senses, hearing sounds in the room, maybe internal sounds in your own body, feeling the vibrant pulsing of the body. And becoming aware of any feelings of weight or heaviness in the body. Maybe the weight of the arms, the legs, or maybe the weight of the head. And sensing the surface on which your body is resting against. Can you give yourself completely to the support of this surface? And as you do that, really feeling how dense and heavy the body can be. And then finding the opposite feeling in the body, maybe somewhere that feels light and open. Could be the sense of the air brushing against the skin, or the breath filling into the lungs and chest. And again, can you give yourself completely to this sense of lightness and openness? And then moving back and forth in between this feeling of heaviness and then back to this feeling of being open and light. And then can we bring both those sensations in the body at the same time? And how does that affect our experience? How does that affect our body? How does that affect the mind? Holding these two opposites in the same space. And now noticing any thoughts that might be present in your mind at the moment, both positive and negative thoughts. And note how these thoughts can have an effect on the body and the mind. So as we feel sort of negative thoughts, can we feel any areas of tension creeping back into the body? And conversely, as we feel sort of positive thoughts, Do we become more aware of sensations of being open and free in the body? And now focusing on the following words, can you bring their image to mind? And try and visualise these objects in as much detail as you possibly can. So they may be objects, they might be scenes that I'm going to describe. And can you bring them to mind and visualise them in as much detail as you possibly can? So a yellow rose. A setting sun. A snow-capped mountain. A meadow in the springtime. A raging fire. A delicate butterfly. A calm ocean. And then coming back to your sankalpa, your intention that you set at the start of our Yoga Nidra practice. Bringing that intention back to your mind, and again repeating it 3 times in the present tense. And noticing the areas of the body that might be in contact with support beneath you. And sensing into the front of the body, and again whatever points of contact that they may be making with any support that's offered to you. And noticing all the space surrounding you. And letting your body expand wider into that space that surrounds you. Again, sensing into your breath, finding its own rhythm and pace. And the practice of Yoga Nidra is now complete. So if you want to lay here for a bit longer, that's absolutely fine. You can stay here. If you would like to begin to start coming out of your relaxation here, you can begin to let fingers and toes, maybe let the head gently move from side to side, but take it very slowly, very slowly. And if you would like to, you can generate some heat between the palms of the hands. That might not be appropriate for you right now. It might not feel comfortable for you. But eventually beginning to open the eyes, so whether that be beneath the palms of the hands or without the palms of the hands, but really slowly and gently opening the eyes. And that might take a few goes, so opening the eyes, but then maybe coming to close the eyes for a few moments, and then opening again. and making that opening phase of the eyes longer each time so they begin to adjust to more light in the room. And becoming aware of sounds and sensations in the wider space of the room. And then eventually taking all the time you need to complete, drawing the knees in towards the chest, having a little rock from side to side, and letting that momentum take you all the way over onto one side. And spending a few moments here resting on the side of the body. And then eventually bringing yourself back up to a comfortable seated position from there. Or if you are sat in a chair, if you're in a slightly different position, again you can let the fingers and toes wriggle, letting the eyes open slowly. And maybe coming to sit up on the chair, and maybe coming to sit towards the edge of the chair, just to make that transition from rest to a bit more activity in the body. So we will leave that there for our Yoga Nidra practice today. For some of you, that might be the first time you've done anything like that before, so I hope you enjoyed it. And for those who've practiced Yoga Nidra before, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was beneficial for you. If you'd like any more information around Yoga Nidra, please feel free to contact me as always. Yeah, I'm happy for emails and texts or calls. But yeah, we'll leave it there, and till next week, I'll see you then. Bye.